Hello, hi, John. Nice to speak with you today.
Great to be here.
Thank you. My name's Robert, and I've written before on Geeks of Color before in the past, but Avatar, the first Avatar, is literally the movie that got me inspired to go into movies. Back in '09, I was 13 years old in high school, and a lot of people say like Star Wars is their film and things like that, but the first Avatar is my movie, so.
That means a lot to if we can do that, we've accomplished more than any ticket sale can do.
Right. And I think that's, part of it for me was I came from a math and science background. I was studying to be like engineering and went to STEM middle school and high school. The integration of the technology and the filmmaking and the storytelling is really something that like always blew me away. So can you tell me a little bit about that as a producer of the film? How is the integration of technology challenging, especially with, literally creating a lot of the new things that we see here?
Technology is both a blessing and a curse. I think technology has afforded people the opportunity to do anything. I think sometimes people make the mistake of putting technology ahead of the story, and you've got to do it in the reverse. So I think the challenge is making sure you're utilizing technology to advance your story and advance how a filmmaker like Jim can use technology to direct in a place called Pandora that doesn't really exist, the same way he would on a live action set for Titanic.
And that's what's really cool about watching the behind the scenes things that we just watched today, and learning how y'all filmed especially first Avatar and Avatar 2 in this volume studio situation. Can you shed a little light on creating a completely digital world?
Right.
Like what, the virtual camera, what all goes into that?
So what we tried to do in making Avatar was to create a paradigm that we could do virtually in a CG world, everything you could do on a live action set. So we capture performances on a stage in the ether, but we capture them in 360. We then put a tool in Jim's hand. It could be a game controller for a video console that has a monitor on it. And later, a week later, a month later, a year later, he picks up that camera, sees the characters that are no longer standing in front of him, and he can create his shots. That then gets edited into a cut sequence, and then we do it at a level that really looks like a video game. And then it's Weta FX's job to take technology and make it look photoreal.
Okay, so even in the editing bay, it looks like it's like the video game.
Right. So when we're editing, what we turn over to Weta, we call it a template, and it's at this 2010 video game level, and then they make it. But we don't want them to change it. If our camera bobbled, we want the camera to bobble.
And I think that's why the film feels so textured and real. And working on this film and with James Cameron in general, he's such a perfectionist. How was that relationship with like the studio, and obviously with Disney being in charge of this at the time? Did they push back a lot, especially with the release dates and all that kind of stuff?
Look, I view our relationship with a studio as a partnership. We are in this together. Unless we both win, neither one of us wins. So as we go through the process, it's hearing their concerns, but us having to be the arbiters of what's going to hurt the movie. If they wanted to be a great director, they would have been doing that. But they're at a studio, but we value their input, but we have to be the arbiters of choice.
And I think one of the coolest things that I see in the first film and this film is how you incorporate the indigenous cultures of the planet Earth and then bring those into the world of Pandora. We saw it with the Native Americans in the first one, and I think, taking a little bit from Polynesian culture in the second one. Like, how is it, taking those cultural pieces and incorporating that to the film? Do you have like cultural consultants, or how's all those, how do y'all go into the research of that?
Every department goes into their own research. We had a cultural anthropologist, Wade Davis, come down and talk to everybody. We reached out and had a shaman from Brazil come and do a blessing on the set. But to me, more importantly, or just as importantly, as the diversity of the cultures we're showing on screen, I'm very proud of the diversity behind the scenes. You saw today Jonathan Nixon, who he's responsible for the water in Pandora and creating all of those, those incredible effects. Pavani, who's from India, doing that. So it's not just on screen, but it's breeding a community of diverse culture to inspire audiences around the world.
And that's I feel like they did an incredible job with that. And the visual effects team obviously just won the Oscar, and it was well deserved. I wish they didn't get cut off during the ceremony, but
And the poor guy who got cut off had just been at the hospital, had gone on some painkillers to come be there, to lucky enough to do it, went backstage and was raced to the hospital for emergency surgery. And he's still in the hospital, but he never got to speak.
wow, that's unfortunate. But I do think the entire crew, Richard, Joe, everybody, who we spoke to on the previous Geeks Color article, were just amazing. And this film is one of my favorites of the year. if not
Thank you.
one of the
But
tops.
going back to what they do, they couldn't do what they do unless Zoe gave us her performance, unless Cliff Curtis gave us his performance. Kate Wins, on and on and on. It's about those performances of those great actors.
And and for me, Zoe Saldana, she's been in so many movies. Avatar, geeks, we're geeks of color, so we love Marvel stuff, we love Star Wars things, Star Trek, and obviously Avatar. And she's really like the queen of geekdom. Zoe Saldana and Sigourney Weaver really both are like the queens. So having them both in this movie.
And can I tell you one of the, this is not something that most people get to see, but two of the nicest people in the world. And Zoe and her husband Marco and her kids, and Sigourney and her husband Jim and their daughter, they are a big part of the Avatar family and what I love so much.
That's amazing. And I love being a part of seeing what the Avatar family has built. I love, watching Avatar 2 and, being a part of the Sully family. So
And keep going with Geeks of Color, and glad we got you down here to Lightstorm today.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.